Hello everyone, my name is Dave Partner and welcome to this tutorial. In this Laravel tutorial, we'll look at how to pass data to all views. Remember in the past tutorials, we saw how you could pass the data from your web and straight to your view from here, and how you can pass from your controller, like your pages controller that we created before, to your view. But then, what if you wanted one data to be accessible to different views? You want one variable to be accessible from your about page, your contact page, your users admin page, and stuff like that. How do you do that? Where do you put it? Well, it turns out that there's a place called App Service Provider. When you go to your app folder, then you hit on HTTP. Okay, you hit on providers. You see your app service provider, and then in this you will see a function called boot. This comes with Laravel, the entire file. You see a method called boot, and what you can do there is to actually pass variable. Let's say we want to pass variable to a view and say view share this variable to all views, and the name of the variable in the view will be car name. That's what it will be called in the view, and what the content will be is Ferrari. I love Ferrari. Alright, so in the view, every time somebody calls this variable, it should show up as Ferrari. So let's go to any of our views and try it. We are going to get an error when we try it the first time, just because I want to show you something. So we'll go to any of our views. We have contact that we've been working with, so we can just find somewhere in the page and include okay, right here we could just include the variable name. Remember this guy, and we could say car name. So when we have something like this, we'll get to our page. Remember this contact us page, then we refresh, reload, and we have an error like we predicted correctly. So it's saying class app providers view not found. So we did not import this guy. So whenever you have a problem like that, once it tells you that XYZ is not found, like view not found, it means it's expecting you to actually import it at the top of the page, and this is how we do that. And when we get back to the file again and refresh, we have it up. So guess what? Contact us Ferrari. Alright, this is what how to share data among views. There are a number of other tiny little things that could be done here, but that will be further down the tutorial. Now we have demonstrated this. This is a very good time for us to really explain what providers are, so that next time you see this folder or the files here, you understand what they are. These files here are called providers. Your provider is in Laravel is the central place for your Laravel application bootstrapping. This means registering things like service container bindings, event bindings, middlewares, and even routes. Okay, so what you have in every provider is you have a boot method, then you have a register method. What this does is most of the times you're not expected to actually do anything here unless you know what you're doing, because most of the events you register here, you might accidentally register or use a service that is provided by a service provider that has not loaded yet. Okay, but here this guy loads this method. This boot method is called after all other service providers have been registered. Alright, so if you check out the config folder, you will see that Laravel loads everything through from this app folder in the app file in the config folder. You will, if we scroll down, we will see that Laravel loads a whole lot of things. As you can see, let me expand this a little. So Laravel loads a whole lot of things from this folder. It loads a whole lot of providers. Okay, so what we can do is to get back to our service provider and see that in this put function, this is where you put the main thing you want to call, all right, or load. And let's just see how we can create our own custom provider. When you open your command line, I'm going to stop this. Remember how to stop this. You press Ctrl+C on your keyboard and you've stopped. We are going to quickly create our own provider just for demonstration purposes. And what do we call that? We're going to call it a dummy name. Just give it a random dummy name. So we can call us PHP artisan make provider, and we can call us a dummy service provider. So all your providers must have should, or by convention, end with service provider. So if you are creating a user service provider, should be users service provider. All right. We hit enter, and we have users service provider or dummy service provider. And I've hit the enter, and my command line is kind of taking a little time. I'll pause this video and see why it's taking time, but yours should just create the service provider immediately. Alright, I just had to open a new Node.js command prompt and run this, and navigated to the folder and run the same command, and it just created it for me. So which means if we come to our folder providers, we'll see dummy service provider, and as you can see, it has written some dummy text for me, both for it has written these two methods for me, and for me to do anything. So this is how to create your service provider. And of course we made a little mistake in the spelling. It should be service dummy service provider. All right, and of course we can always edit this and change it to service provider service provider. All right, and this does it for us. So this is how to create a provider. And remember, in the app service provider, we'll give an example of how we share the view, a variable to the view and different views. So once you register your provider, once you create your provider, the next thing, it won't work. Whatever code you put in your provider won't work until you register it. So which means you have to go to your config and app.php and scroll all the way down till you see this providers array. So Laravel registers all its providers here, so you should register yours here, and yours should be, just copy the path of the provider, which is simply app providers. Let me show you. You get to your dummy provider, and this is the path of our provider, and this is the name of the provider. So we go to our app.php at the bottom. I can just add, or somewhere here at the bottom before it closes, you can just add your app providers, then you add the name of your provider. We have dummy service provider class. So this is how to register your provider. Once you've done this, your provider should work perfectly well. And the last thing I want to mention is that you can actually defer your provider. If you don't want it to work exactly immediately your app role opens, back in your provider you can defer it, of course, until one of the registered bindings is actually needed. So you don't need to load all your providers once your app loads. You can defer it until one of your registered providers bindings loads. So to defer it, right in your class here at the top of your class, you just put something like this: protected deferred true, so it doesn't load at the with the rest of the file until it's actually called. So that's it. When you're building your app, you now know what providers does. That's where you can pass views and variables that can load across the entire application. Be accessible across the entire application. So thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial. We're going to touch middleware, and then once we're done with that, we'll move on to the more interesting stuff, like how to create your user registration login pages with just one command. And then we're going to look at databases, models, very, very interesting stuff. I'm just trying to get over with all these other basic concepts. All right, so thank you, and see you in further tutorials. And don't forget to visit devpartner.com and make your posts there, and we'll be there to handle your issues. So thank you very much. See you in the next video.